It's Thursday at noon and on the East Coast, and it's time for Disruptive Conversations. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today. And one of the aspects of this show that I happen to absolutely love is that there are people who come in from all different areas, and let's see about that. Let's see if the buffering is working. And there are women who are coming up with all sorts of really extraordinary ideas. Uh, Here we go. Let's go this way. And extraordinary ideas. And we are just thrilled to have them on so that we can know what the journeys look like, how we get to that spot. And here we go. Okay. How we get to that spot. And it really provides us with more opportunities to think through areas that we can think about, be part of. It can stimulate and activate our imaginations. Okay, so we're getting, Nightcap is unable to join. All right, I'm going to send, okay, here we go. And here we go. I'm going to invite here. Okay. So, and here we are. Without further ado, I'm so happy to have you here. So welcome, Schirah. I'm going to be introducing the show myself, and then we're going to move on to you so that we can just start our conversation. So hang on with me for just a moment. So welcome everyone to Disruptive Conversations, in which we deep dive into the experiences of thought leaders, entrepreneurs, influencers, inventors, musicians, designers, and get a better understanding of the challenges they needed to navigate and conquer in order to have achieved their personal and professional success up to this point in time. I'm Dr. Risa Reiger, clinical psychologist, and I'm an expert in change. And here's the good news. Positive change can happen at any point in time. You're never too late. But in order to create change, we need to disrupt. We need to disrupt a thought, a feeling, a belief, a behavior, and habit in order to create our 10.0 lives. And today, to help us in that journey, to share her journey, I am really thrilled to have Schirah Bernarde here with us. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her bio. Wait till you hear this. All right, so Schirah Bernarde is the co-founder of Nightcap, a groundbreaking drink spiking prevention brand that gained national recognition after securing a deal on Shark Tank. As a passionate advocate for safety and innovation, Schirah played a key role in the passage of California Bill AB 2375, for those of you who want to look that up, which ensures bars provide drink spiking prevention options to customers. Through Nightcap, she's collaborated with over 200 universities and brands like Bumble, Bacardi, and Rainan to drive awareness and action around drink safety, selling over 1 million units worldwide. And here she is with us today. Schirah, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So excited to have you here today. I think you're my first inventor, so I'm going to check that box in different kinds of ways. So Schirah, you've gone on to this path that is really quite extraordinary. So could you just inform us, like, what is it that you needed to disrupt inside of yourself in order to have created your personal and professional success up to this point in time? Because obviously there's much more to come.
Yeah, I think disrupt is a really great word for this because a lot of times, not just personally and professionally, but even in the industry that we're in, which is, protecting people, a lot of times people that we want to work with don't want to work with us. So we have to be really, really loud about the problem. A lot of people think that drink spiking doesn't exist. So, we have to be very expressive and come with facts, come with statistics, and be disruptive. But I think professionally and personally, I started the company when I was 16. And that was very, very challenging because at 16, you only have like a high school, not even a high school diploma. So you're kind of just working with your life experience. And I think for me, I had to build confidence and figure out what my work style was. A lot of personal, like, what are my personal skills? Like, how do I fit in this company? I created this product, but how do I actually take it and grow it? Because I didn't know what I was good at. So just kind of like learning more about myself, what I like to do, what I was good at, and how to stand up for myself, not like, as a co-founder, but also as a professional who is in an industry where people don't want to talk about it.
So obviously the question that I have, like first and foremost in my mind, now that I've heard more about you and your internal disruption and your views about it, is what is it that, that motivated you and inspired you to take this particular journey with your nightcap product?
Well, the journey began because a college friend was roofied at the bar. And a few weeks later, I went to bed one night, and the idea of a scrunchie that also covers your drink came to me when I was sleeping. So when I woke up, I sat down with my dad, and instead of trying to tell him what I was visualizing, I wanted to show him. So I ran around my house, and I ended up in my mom's closet, and I grabbed a pair of her stockings and a scrunchie from my room, and I taped it together to create the first prototype. So I do think it fell into my lap, but I also believe that people get ideas, and if they don't act on them, it goes to someone else. So having an idea is one thing, doing something is another.
Schirah, that it fell into your lap, I see it so differently, and I really want to share it with you because we in the course of our lives, and at 16 and earlier, we hear all kinds of things that happen to people, happen to friends of ours, our relatives, and ourselves. But something very different happened. You had this, vision, and you didn't just say, "Oh, that was sort of cool," you know. like I had this cool thing happen to, think I had this cool thought, but you actually propelled yourself and just acted on it. So could you talk a little bit about that space of having an idea and actually then taking it and making it happen?
Yeah, well, I think it comes with a little bit of delusion because if you overthink too much, you're gonna wait for the perfect time, and there's no perfect time, so you're just gonna continue waiting. And I think like at 16 and even the years before that, I was like a super creative kid. Like I loved doing art projects. I loved just like creating random things. And whenever I had an idea, I would just like do it. If I wanted to do an art project, I would just do it. So to me, it was very similar to just, being a kid and just like doing it. And so like when it came to me, I was like, oh, let's just do this. Also had nothing to lose. I was 16, going to high school. Like, my friends they did laugh at me, and people thought it was a bad idea, but I never really cared about that stuff. So, yeah, I guess, not giving other people the power over you, because some people are going to judge you no matter what. But between that and just, being a little bit delusional and realizing that there's no good time to do anything, that combination definitely worked out.
I love the delusional part that you talk about because it's oftentimes in that space of delusion that we believe we can do something. And here's where, and I don't know if you've heard about, the adolescent brain. And here's where the adolescent brain really has the lane and can be channeled for such extraordinary good and innovation and impact because you go on a belief that you're going to be able to do this and to position yourself in this way, for good, it's just so incredible. So here's where you harness delusion. You put the reins on it. You have the steering wheel in your hand, and like you drive delusion for positive impact.
Yeah, I there's definitely something there. I think when you're, yeah, a kid, you have less fear, less judgment. You think, the world is your oyster, but you think that more because, yeah, I mean, you haven't had as many life experiences. So, I mean, that was definitely my mindset as a kid. I had a really big vision for myself, and as you get older, obviously, like fear starts to crawl in and that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely something there.
Yeah, for sure. And also, so so you have this idea, you get creative, you figure out how to do it, you use what you got. It's not like, well, when I go and I get this, it's like, hey, I can get a scrunchie, I can get a pair, some pantyhose, I can see how this is going to work. Just like to get it out of your
Mhm.
head and bring it to action, which in its own way also kind of reinforces it in your brain, and your brain starts to think in that way. So how did you go from that? And I have obviously more questions to ask you, because this is an extraordinary journey that you've had. You've pulled your life together in these ways that are really something. And how you go from this to going on to Shark Tank?
Yeah, well, um, I mean, how did we go from there to Shark Tank? I think
Or
just,
yeah, and like what was that for you? I mean, you
yeah,
don't have to go nitty gritty of step by step,
yeah.
but but you're 16, and at this point, I don't know, maybe you're 17 or whatever, however, and that one of the things we know is that women in business, or women who are looking to have a venture, are so underfunded, and to get funding for women often is like, I forget the percentages, but
Mhm.
it's abysmal. And
Mhm.
so you go out into one of the biggest platforms like in the world and put yourself out there for this. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, well, so I mean, it was definitely surreal. I think too, like my brother and I, who I went on Shark Tank with, we used to watch the show together on the couch when I was like probably 5. So we would watch it, and he's 5 years older than me, and I would in my head just be like that. I would watch the show, and I'd be like, I'm like, that's something I want to do. I'm gonna do that. And it was just like a very loose thought, but it was there. Uh, I never thought that way about really any other show, but I would just watch Shark Tank, and I just resonated with it at a very, very young age. And walking through the doors, actually being there is a very, very almost like out of body experience, because you feel like you're in the TV screen. And I was also so young that I knew that it was a very pivotal moment in my life. So I think when the show actually aired, which was 6 months after we filmed it, that was the moment I realized this product might actually really help people. So, going on the show is one thing. Not necessarily are you going to air. So like when we did air, I was like, oh my gosh, I think this might actually work. Which it was, yeah, it was definitely that moment. But yeah, I mean, as a 17-year-old going on Shark Tank, it was empowering. I think like it didn't change who I was. I think it was just um, validating the fact that we had a really good product and that it would be something bigger.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how have you brought this forward more? And in addition to the product, I mean, the product is one piece of it, but also educating people. And you've been talking about talking to people who don't want to talk about it, talking to people who don't want to hear about it. And so you are an extraordinary disruptor in and having people think about something they don't want to think about. And you need to, as a woman, and certainly as a teenager up at those points in time, to develop your own credibility and gravitas. you know
Hmm.
what was that like for you? Because you've got the product, but you've also got helping people really prevent, in the space of preventative uh, actions that can really throw someone's life off course
Yeah.
in really horrible ways. So, thank you, first of all.
Yeah, well, I think it came from two things. The online community, but also my conversations that I would have on a daily basis of older men. Or I never had this happen with a woman, really. I've had older women say to me like, "Oh, drink spiking would never happen. I'm not a young female." And there's this like misconception that you have to be a young girl to get roofied. And but in my I've been in conversations with older men multiple times where they kind of laugh at you or me when I talk about, drink spiking. And they kind of brush it off as if it's like, it's the craziest thing that they've ever heard, that this isn't actually a problem. Like, what is this girl talking about? I had a man like recently say to me like, that doesn't happen. Like, I have a daughter in New York City. She's never experienced this. And in my head, I was just like, oh goodness, because not only does that bother me because I have all these survivors of drink spiking that are in our messages and in our, emails saying thank you for this product, but also bothers, I'm sure, his children. Because if you're a parent that just assumes that this thing doesn't happen, where you're not creating a space for that daughter in New York City to even tell you if something were to happen. So there's a lot of problems around people just thinking that it doesn't exist and not being open to listening about it. So I've been in those conversations, and then you know that that is also a problem with like bars and clubs that don't want to talk about that it's happening at their space. But then you have the online community that's in our comments being like, this doesn't exist. How stupid is this product? This and that, which doesn't offend me at all. I don't care like what people think of the product. I just think it's so annoying that people are so ignorant to comment these things, and just not even listen. So it's like crazy because the other percentage of people are just thanking us and saying like they can't leave the house without it and telling us their stories. And so like when you have a mix of both, you kind of have to be like, all right, how do we get this side to listen to this side? Um, and so I have done both, and like I've taken a presence online where it's like, this is what the red zone is. It's a time period from August to Thanksgiving break where assault cases rise by 50%. This is why you need to know this. You need to talk to your friends about it. And knowing a term like this can navigate you can navigate college differently. So talking about the red zone, talking about what is drink spiking, who it happens to, the most common person to spike your drink is actually someone that you know. Talking about it online and spreading the awareness has created the conversation, but it's also frustrating for me because somebody will have an experience and the only information that's out there are my TikToks. And I'm like, there's no other information than like, going online and seeing me talk about this horrible situation. But then once they go through the comments, they realize that they're not alone. So we have hundreds of thousands of comments on our social media pages about people being roofied by, I mean, their cousin, their uncle, their this, their that. And it's just like, it's eye-opening. But then back to like my real life where I walk into a bar and I talk to a bar owner and I go door to door and they're like, what is this, and it's clearly a problem. So I think the only way that I've been able to like, you know I don't go around. I go through. So I kind of just I come with facts, and I'm just really loud about it. And if people in my real life are telling me that if it's not an issue, I say, okay, go scroll through the comments, then tell me it's not an issue. Or I tell them stories and I tell them statistics. And if you mentioned the law in the intro, but like we helped pass this bill in California, to provide drink covers at every single bar in the state. Why did we have to do that? Because it's such a bad problem that it was not, that we didn't have to do that much, to help pass the bill. Like all we did was educate these legislatures. They knew how often it was happening, and it's only like 5, 6 years later of starting the company and having this conversation that people are starting to listen. But like, it's just getting more and more people behind it, talking about it. And unfortunately, having these things happen where people are finally starting to listen.
I hear you, and I will be a proponent, period. That because, what is the downside of having the possibility of prevention that
Right.
is treat, that is, you're not forcing someone, you're giving people an option.
Mhm.
And I don't know what your statistics are, but it's not just young girls who are getting roofied. I think that is, I don't have the statistics to back that up, but I imagine that it's not specific to that population. And so like what would be the downside
Right.
of taking a, like what's your downside?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I think I'll probably steal that from you. But I
Today,
think,
starting
yeah,
today. Yeah.
the issue is two things: is bars and clubs, they don't want to spend money on anything. If it's not alcohol, then they don't want to spend money on a product like this. And then the second thing is they actually switch the narrative. So in reality, right, bars and clubs want females at their venue. Like, let's be real, they want girls. Well, how are you going to get girls in there? By making them feel safer. So what they do is they switch the narrative and they say, well, if we have a product like this at our establishment, doesn't it give like this weird, doesn't this give off a um it tells you that there's a problem. So they've switched it, and so I go in and I switch it back. I'm like, don't you want females in your bar? They want to feel safe. They'll come in and they'll have a good time if they feel safe. They feel peace of mind. So they love to just turn that one around, and then also they just don't want to pay for it, even though we've created other solutions that cost like 20 cents, which super super like low cost items to just give people peace of mind and eliminate liability. Like, what's the downside? Exactly. It's crazy, but now that we've mandated it in California, the bars, they can't do anything now. So hopefully we can do that in every single state, country, who knows, but it is just scratching the surface.
It's so interesting that you're getting the same kind of, pushback
Mm-hmm.
that comes to when you talk to people about sex and having a conversation about sex, when you talk to people about, ways of taking care of themselves or suicide prevention, that there's this idea that if you bring it up, that it will be damaging. You'll say as if this exists, but it does exist. It's so circumlocuted.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
when you talk about it, you make it safe to talk about. I mean, like, I don't know, as a mom, I'm a mom, and I've got grown daughters, and we had the conversation. If you leave your drink for a second, just I will I will pay for it. Get another one. Do not
Yeah.
go to that. Like, these things are so important.
Mm-hmm.
And to think that, well, it doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen in nice places, or it doesn't happen in whatever you can think of.
Yeah.
And you are really bringing truth to into not a conversation that hasn't happened before. You're bringing truth and you're starting
Well,
conversations.
appreciate it. I also think that a lot of this stuff that I talk about is from personal, like just learning experience. Not personal, but like learning about the problem through the business. Like, I definitely thought that it was like, a young female issue. Like if you were a young girl, it would happen in the beginning, through, 5, 6 years of this, with growing the company. You start to learn, you start to hear from your customers about their stories, and then you start to learn about, I mean, you know from a customer's perspective or from a survivor's perspective, but then you also get like the bar owner's perspective. And so you're like, these are so different. So I guess I just take my own like narrative and I like I can tell a story about it. And like I can see the commonality between all these venue owners and how they have the same response. So we work with like universities and military bases and nonprofits, and they will buy the product and give them out to students. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's all through like working with our partners and like, somebody at a nonprofit will tell me, I remember I learned about the red zone from a partner of ours like 4 years ago. And I was like, well, why don't people talk about this? And we have grown a platform by talking about these things. So, you just kind of learn and like adapt to all of the feedback, and then you, with the platform that we have, try to just amplify the message, because every single college student should know what the red zone is when they step onto a college campus, but nobody does. And same thing goes, like I have people that still comment on my red zone video being like, oh, wish I knew this, I was red zoned. And like, that's not okay. Like, people should not be finding, looking on TikTok for comfort. They should be in their own, they should have that circle or like resource. And I'm glad that we're there, but you can only help someone so much like through a video. Yeah.
Well, you're doing what you can, and
Yeah.
this should be part of, when we have our college students going off to school for the first time. This should be part of the onboarding process.
Hmm.
This should be part of the conversation of, hey, besides like,
Yeah.
don't drink the jungle juice, right?
Right. And I think too, like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and like going back to adding in my perspective, like getting all of these angles, but adding in me, to kind of be the voice is, I also take the fact that I was in college, like not that, like I dropped out, but I was there. I started 2020 was like my first year of college. So all I remember is like everyone's just working and working and like asking their friends, what school are you going to? Like, who's going to the best school? And like, if you're not going there, you're not cool enough, whatever. I never cared about that stuff. But like, everyone is so competitive with the what school are you going to, right? Like, so that's all you're focused on. But you don't realize that when you get to college, there is so much peer pressure and there's so much drinking. Like, I saw that for myself, because I look back at my freshman year and I was like, why was I like, you were out every night. Like, it's just like so much, and like you're not, I mean, it depends on what kind of student you are. I wasn't the best in school, but like I was just I took advantage of it socially, and like I'm so glad for the experience, but I think that there needs to be some kind of like warning, because you really don't. And University of Tampa, where I went, isn't even like, it's not a party school really. It's like, not a big school. Like, I think when you're talking about these big state schools, it's so intense, and you're just thrown into it, and you're say 18 years old, so you just say yes to everything, and like nobody has like a sense of self their freshman year. So I think like just knowing like what it's like to be a freshman, but also you're a target for so much that specific year of your life, and you have just no idea. Like, that is crazy to me. You don't get warnings, like you're just there.
The warnings are so important, and it because you can only have the perspective that you can have at that point,
Mhm.
right? That can only be your perspective unless you're given more information, and given information in a way that
Mhm.
will make sense to you. And I think that when you're talking about it the way you talk about it, and that it's just crucial that it's not just giving information, excuse me, but giving information in a way that is
Yeah.
hearable to those people who need to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you think
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Shira, we've like come down to the end of our time together, which has just been so fast. And I'm so thrilled to have you here. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, your information. We're going to have a follow-up conversation. We're definitely going to do that. What you're doing is so important, and that you found the courage, the confidence, and the determination in yourself to keep going so that you bring this to everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Let's do our cover shot. You've got your hat on, so you've got your night, your cap on. So you're
Yes, we're in Boston right now. We spoke at Emerson College yesterday.
amazing, as you should. Everyone needs you.
Thank you.
Everyone needs you for sure. So let's do. You ready? Tell me when. Ready? And one more. Women love options. We need to have options. Okay, so we'll continue from here. I'm a big proponent. I'm happy to help get the word out. I mean, this is so important to bring safety to places where we can bring safety. And for those of you who have not been able to hear the whole show today, we're going to be posting it. You haven't missed it. Let people know there are people who need to hear this. And so let them know they haven't missed their opportunity. It's going to be on my Instagram. It's going to be on Schirah's Instagram, Nightcap.
Mhm.
And don't, this is important information. It just takes a moment of information to bring safety into your lives. So for everyone, I'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Can't wait to see you there. And I've saved a seat for you. See you then. Thanks, Schirah.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.